Morning, good morning, good morning. Sheri just got up and left the shot. I don't know why that was. But at any rate, welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. My wife is here, but she just left me, and I don't know what that's about. Oh, she's turning our light on. So, okay, I appreciate that. Listen, guys, if you are just joining us, tell me what you think. Let me know where you are, where you're signing in from. If you are on Instagram, do me a favor, put the city and put maybe even the state that you're in. We'd love to know where you are, where you're broadcasting live from. Same thing for you guys who are joining us by way of YouTube. I really want to get to the place where we kind of can engage you guys a little bit more personally. Sheri's pulling this up so that we can see our chats. Here's what I want to do, guys. I want you guys to understand, if you have been married, if you are married, there are tough things that you go through. You said what now? I am. I'm going to do that. At this particular, my wife's trying to do a couple of things that she's telling me what to do. Coach Rice, what's going on, brother? Zurich, Switzerland. You are not in Switzerland, sir. DMV, shout out. Rich man. I know that's right. As in Virginia, not California. Appreciate you, YB, for jumping in. Guys, listen, do me a huge favor. I need you guys to let people know where you are signing in from. I'm trying to do a bunch of things. I got a lot of moving parts here. I don't know why iTunes is trying to sign in. We don't want to do iTunes. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Guys. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Got a lot of moving parts over here. What's going on? Rockville, Maryland. I know that's right. Homes sold by Greg. Greg, can you give us your government name, brother? I know you got a business going on. Obviously, you must be a realtor. Appreciate you. I just want to make sure I'm greeting you a little bit more personally. YouTube. If you guys are signing in by way of YouTube, first of all, thank you. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. We got a bunch of people. Virginia Beach, Glen Burnie, Tawana Rice, Dana viewing from DC. I know that's right. Fort Washington, Charlene Hawkins. Good to see you. Guys, today is going to be a good day. Say that. Put that in the chat. Today is going to be a good day.
It's going to be a good day.
You know why? You know why today is going to be a good day?
Why?
Because you're here with me.
Aww.
Let me say this, guys. I miss you. I'm going to get my coffee. Give me 1 second. Guys, listen to me huge. Listen to me carefully. Listen. 20 years ago, Sheri and I got married. When we got married, we recognized that there were some things that we needed to do very differently. And the reason why is because, just go ahead and put it on this, because I'm not going to need that. Put it right in here. And we'll put our notes up here. Guys, we're trying to get ourselves situated. Give me a second. I was here last week. I had a whole different setup. And we got some notes here, and I want to engage you. Is that better? Now that we can see everything, we can see everybody. Okay, awesome sauce. If you are here for the very first time, I want you to put first time. If this is your first time tuning in to Breakfast with the Brookses, I want you to put first time. We are broadcasting live on 2 different platforms. I'm going to take my hat off so that people can see me a little bit better. And they can see my lovely face underneath this chrome dome. Sheri, when we got married 20 years ago, we recognized that if we were going to make it, we were going to have to do some things very, very differently. And so today, we're going to talk a little bit about what it looks like to guard against the top 10 things that causes divorce. Now, here's what I want to share really quickly. Next week, which is Memorial Day weekend, we're going to be in the DMV. We're going to be broadcasting live from the DMV, and we're going to have the unique opportunity to catch up with a longtime friend of mine, Keith Battle, who pastors Zion Church. Many of you guys in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area certainly know of, heard of, and or are associated with on some level. Keith Battle, certainly know of him. Keith just wrote a book called Side Chickology. Side Chickology. It really deals with why men and women cheat and really how to recover from infidelity, how to get to the place where you bounce back. We're going to talk about that and some other things this morning. But when you and I got together 20 years ago, we had been through a divorce. Right. And I want people to understand that when we talk about this today, we're talking about it from a place of having been there, but more importantly, doing the work that it takes for us to be able to never be there again.
Right.
Before we go there, we want to tell you a little bit about our MAPS Relationship Academy, baby. If you can tell everybody about who we are, what we do.
Right, so we're Glenn and Sheri Brooks. For those of you that don't know, we're author, speaker, relationship coaches, and we have an online relationship academy that's called the MAPS Relationship Academy. MAPS stands for Marriages and Parenting Successfully. And in the Relationship Academy, we have 5 groups. We have a group for couples, we have a group for parents, singles, men's, and a ladies only group. And these are groups that we meet online weekly in a closed, secure online group where you get to dial in and come online, come on by video, where we talk about the issues that are prevalent and relate to relationships.
Right.
We deal with communication, we deal with all of the issues related to relationships in that particular arena. So if you're a parent, we deal with the issues that parents struggle with, the issues that come up with parenting at all stages of parenting, whether you have small children, teenagers, even adult children, how to successfully have relationships with your adult children. If you are a couple, if you're married or you're on your way to marriage, you're in a serious relationship moving towards marriage, we deal with issues to prepare individuals for marriage and also to help people in marriage to deal with the struggles of marriage, because marriage is a struggle.
100%. 100%. It's not easy.
Whenever you bring 2 people together from 2 different households, there's going to be some conflict, and we just help people to learn how to be able to manage that conflict and how to get through it.
Yeah.
We have the group for for singles that want to get married. This is not
that is the caveat.
This is not the group for the single and satisfied, and you find being single and you
saved,
just
love Jesus, and you just want to stay single forever.
For the rest of your life.
This ain't that group for you.
If you have aspirations to get married one day, that's the group for you, for singles, to help prepare you for marriage for when that time comes.
Yep.
And then, as I stated, also we have the group for the men and the women. We have a men's only group that Glenn does, and a ladies only group where I host and meet with the ladies to deal with women's issues, where we get to talk real. Yep,
100%, y'all. So if you guys want to be a part of that, just go to thecrcoach.com, www.thecrcoach.com, and sign up for a free, what we call a free discovery session. And we basically want to chop it up with you for a few minutes, make sure that we're a fit for you, you're a fit for us, and we can rock together. So do that, and we'll go from there. If you have been married, if you are married, put a 1 in the chat. If you have been married, meaning you're divorced, or if you're currently married, I want you to put a 1 in the chat. Hey, Kat, good to see you. Great morning. Good to see you, sis. Appreciate you for jumping on. For those of you who have been married, I need y'all to put a 1 in the chat. If you are currently married, I need you to put a 1 in the chat. And the reason why, babe, is because today's session, today's talk is really going to speak to that. I think that I've heard this said over and over again, is it possible for you to, quote, bulletproof your marriage? Is it possible to affair-proof your marriage? Is it possible to divorce-proof your marriage? And I have an interesting perspective on that, and I'm going to say no, that's not possible. And the reason why is because when you start talking about bulletproofing something or putting something, you're talking about putting an inanimate object up against that no matter what happens, it will never change. It will always protect it. The reason why I say no is because the only thing here, the difference here is that it's subjective, meaning it's possible as long as that there is work being put in to make that happen.
Right. There is no magic pill. There's not like you can go out and buy a security system and that's going to protect your marriage. There's work that has to be done. It's a constant evolving process that has to be done that helps prevent your relationship from falling into some of these traps that we're going to talk about today that can ultimately lead to divorce. And I want to say this, even the top 10 things that we're going to talk about today, these are things that typically there's an erosion period that happens. It's not like a one-time thing. This thing happens one time and the relationship is over. Now, I will also say this, people get to make a choice. You could choose because he don't put the top on the toothpaste that you want a divorce.
Right.
So, I mean, you could choose that. So I think people have to realize that in relationships, everybody has a choice, and that you can't protect against a person's choice.
Correct.
But what you can do is you can do the work to create the environment where they will continue to choose you over outside influences, over other things, that their choice will be the relationship more so than their feelings, their emotions,
100%.
their attitude, whatever. And so we're going to talk about that today.
100%.
Because a lot of the things, these top 10 things, a lot of them are external things.
Yep.
But some of them are a person's feelings or how they take things. And you can't affect that for that person, but you can control that within yourself.
Correct. So so if you're ready for the top things, say ready. Put ready in the chat. If you're ready for the top 10 things, so we're going to go down this list. We're going to expound upon some of it, but most importantly, I don't want to just talk about the problem. I want to talk about solution. How do I guard against this? So I did a search, I did a research, and I just said, I wonder because it changes. These reasons sort of change in order in terms of importance. At one point, I know for a fact that, communication or the lack thereof, one of the top reasons why people get divorced. That interchanges sometimes with money issues or with infidelity. And so I'm not worried about in order which is most important. Right. I just want to talk about the things that are prevalent, the things that are most common. And so when I went on to did a Google search, just kind of pulled up something. I pulled up an article off of marriage.com that I thought was super dope. And I said, let me go ahead and talk from this. And so I see a bunch of readies in the chat. Thanks, Jacqueline. Right. Thanks, Edith. I appreciate you guys for showing up. The chats are rolling fast, guys, because y'all are interacting and engaging. So if we don't catch y'all here, we'll get a chance to engage y'all offline. Hey, Karen, good to see you. Shout out to the MAPS community. If you are a part of the MAPS community, you in the MAPS community, put MAPS Rocks in the chat so that we can see who you are. And if you want to be a part of the community, say, I want in the chat, and we'll make sure we send you something. But go ahead, babe.
Right. And one thing I want to say before we go into this is that everybody, when they go into relationships, you have what I like to call non-negotiables.
Yes.
And so we're not going to list these things in spite of your individual non-negotiables.
Right.
We're talking about everybody has a line.
Yes.
That for them is that line that crosses over. And so that's not what we're referring to. We're just going to go over, these are the top 10 reasons why people typically get divorced. For some people it may be one. Some people it may take all 10 of them before they would, walk through that, be able to cross over that line. So this is just for information. We're not giving anybody license to say, okay, now they said that's why I can get a divorce. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying.
So let's go in there. So number one, put number one in the chat. Number one. On this particular list, the top 10 reasons for divorce is infidelity is number one right now. And every list is going to list them in a different order. This particular list that we're looking at says that infidelity is the number one reason for divorce. Now, I want to read something to you guys I thought was pretty eye-opening. It says anger and resentment are common underlying reasons for cheating, along with differences in sexual appetite and lack of emotional intimacy. Infidelity, listen to this, and this is so critical. Infidelity often begins as seemingly an innocent friendship. Mm-hmm. This is according to a cheating expert, Ruth Houston. She says it starts as an emotional affair, which later becomes a physical affair. Infidelity in this particular list is the number one reason why people cheat. Let me just say this. I appreciate you putting that in the chat, Kat, and all you guys on YouTube. Here's what I know to be true. In my first marriage, and again, guys, we are transparent, not to brag, certainly not to just put our business out there for the sake of putting our business out there. It's not for shock value. We're transparent because we believe that people can grow more from our weaknesses and our failures than they can our successes. Right. We have learned far more. The success of our now marriage, I would say, has to do with more of how we failed than it is how we succeeded. Right. Would you agree, babe? Right. So I'm saying that when we're sharing this information, I want you to guys know we are super transparent, and we do that to make sure that you understand we can relate and we get it. When I was married the first time, I committed adultery on my first wife well over a dozen times. I'm not proud of that, but it's true. I'm very self-aware. She's a self-aware. We just got back from a cruise. That's why we weren't here live a couple of weeks ago. But the truth of the matter is we went with our co-parents. And so obviously that situation has been, all obviously has been forgiven, and we've moved on. Right. But here's what I've learned from those failures. I have learned that for me, every single relationship that I got involved in from an infidelity standpoint, Sheri, started emotionally.
Right. And I think that that's one thing that, especially for women, I don't think we think that it's physical even for men. And usually it does not start that way. It usually starts, and for women, most women would agree that if they have ever fallen into an affair, it started out as to be honest, it usually starts somebody giving you a compliment.
Yep.
Somebody just having a conversation with you. Them paying attention to you where you feel like maybe you're not getting it at home.
Yep.
Where, you and your husband have been going through some issues. You guys might be going through a rough season, and somebody else pays attention to you.
Yep.
It starts really innocent. It starts really simple, and then it evolves into something the more you feed into it. And this is where...
And we're going to talk about
how to guard against it is when that conversation happens, when that initial conversations happen, you have to nip it in the bud initially.
Yep.
You have to stop it. You can't go with it. You can't, he's giving you compliments. And you're like, he.
Right.
Oh.
Right. Flirting is dangerous.
Right. Flirting is dangerous.
It's
and
dangerous.
You may be like, oh, I'm just playing around. This whole thing about people having, I got a work husband, I got a work wife. That's dangerous.
I don't play with that.
That's a line that
I don't play with that,
because it can potentially lead somewhere. It doesn't always.
Right.
But it potentially can lead somewhere. And so the way that you guard against that is that when you see that you're getting attention from somebody else and you're starting to enjoy that, you're getting something out of it, and you have to be honest with yourself.
Yep.
The guy, you go get coffee every morning, he flirts with you, and you feeling a little something, and you start going there more than once a day because you want him
now
to compliment
you're getting him lunch.
You have to be honest with yourself. And for men, the same thing. The woman in the office that you're having conversations with, and you have to be honest with yourself. You're starting to get something out of that.
Absolutely.
That's when you have to nip that in the bud, because
Absolutely.
if not, it can potentially grow into something else. But it usually starts very innocently. Very rarely do individuals actually just go out and go sleep with somebody else just to go sleep with somebody else.
Okay, so here's what I want to do, guys. Listen, and I know you guys are chiming in on the chat, but I want to give y'all a solution to each one of these. We can talk about the problem all day long. We know what the problem is. Most of us know how that problem starts. How do you guard against infidelity?
Run.
I'm going to give, Sheri's going to say run. I'm going to give you a little bit more clarity. I know she's kind of joking, but she's really serious. I want you to put in the chat boundaries. Right. The way you guard against infidelity is you have real hard boundaries. Right. Boundaries, and I don't have time to unpack it, generally speaking, work when they are birthed from your value system, not from what it is that you feel. I need y'all to hear that. Boundaries work best when they're birthed from what you value versus what you feel. Right. And oftentimes we get caught up on how I'm feeling. In other words, the feeling part says, oh, that was just innocent. The feeling part says he didn't mean nothing by that. The feeling part of that is we just playing. The feeling part of that is, y'all see where I'm going? You fill in the blank? Here's what's dangerous. Here's what's super dangerous about feelings. Feelings change. Good to see you, KL. Thanks for jumping in on IG. If you're on Instagram, do me a huge favor. Tap the little arrow button. Share this out. If you're on YouTube, so used to being on Facebook. If you're on YouTube Live, do me a favor. Share this out and make sure that you copy paste this link. Share this out because people will catch the replay. If you're tuning in by replay, put replay in the chat because this stuff is super important. So we're talking about the top 10 reasons for divorce. Sheri and I, clearly, we understand this. We've been there. We've done that. And one of the top reason, according to this particular list, is infidelity. The way you guard against infidelity is you put in a hard boundary. And you say to yourself, this is what I will not do. This is what I will not tolerate, if you will. You don't have to be mean about it. I think people think that boundaries mean that you have to be mean.
No, you don't.
But you can lovingly say, no, this is what I'm not doing. And the easiest way is not engage the behavior that is coming across your boundary. So you don't have to say much. All you have to do is just just do more. Does that make sense? And
Right,
so
right.
so we're going to go to number 2. We got a lot to work through this morning, guys. I'm not going to be here forever. We got a ton of things on our plates, as do you. But number 2, if you're ready for number 2, put it on the chat. Number 2, say, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. You got anything you want to add on that?
The only other piece I wanted to add in regards to the infidelity piece is it's really, like Glenn said, it's having boundaries, but for me personally, when a person, if somebody flirts with me initially, they pay me a compliment. At first, yes, I appreciate it. Thank you, I appreciate that. But if it becomes repetitive, at this point, I'm offended now. Because especially if I'm in relationship, I work with you, you know me. This isn't some stranger off the street, and typically it's not some stranger, it's somebody that you know.
Yep,
you know that I'm married. So now I'm like, okay, so I'm offended because, okay, I appreciate you telling me I look nice, but now it's going beyond that, and now I'm offended, and I'm going to tell you, you know what, I appreciate that, but I don't need to hear that. I don't need that attention. I don't need that, because now I'm offended, because to me now you're disrespecting me and you're disrespecting my husband.
Right. Does that make sense, guys? So the hard line boundary is that, look, I appreciate the comment. So my quick takeaway from that: first time is a compliment. Second time is a flirt.
Right.
Third time,
right,
there's a boundary. Right. So first time is a compliment. Okay, I accept that, appreciate that. Second time, it's flirting. Same person, y'all work together, they know the deal. Third time, put up hard boundary and say, listen, here's what I'm going to share with you so that you understand.
My granddaughter says that's not appropriate.
Yeah, that's not appropriate, Pop-Up. That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. She forgets the A. That's not appropriate. So number two, we got a string of number 2s. LaRonda, thanks for putting the number 2 in the chat. The number 2 reason for divorce is money. The number 2 reason for divorce is money. As relationship coaches, one of the things that we get a chance to run into on a regular basis is how people interact with money and engage with money. Funny story. I heard next week we're going to be broadcasting live from the DMV. We're going to have the pleasure of interviewing live my good friend Keith Battle. He's a pastor of a very influential church, multiple locations in around the DMV. And he just recently wrote a book called Side Chickology, and it has to do with why men and women cheat, the science or the mindset behind it, and then how to really recover against it. He said something a while back, and something he was teaching messed me up. He said, people get married, but their money don't. I'm going to say that again. Keith Battle, my great friend, I love him. He said something that messed me up. He said, people get married, but their money don't. Right. And what he meant by that, and what I took away was, I can say I do to you, but I'm not saying I do to you being all up in my money situation.
Right, and money usually becomes a big issue in marriages when there's separation. It's that whole division. It's like yours is yours, mine is mine. That's what creates
what's
the problem.
Mine is mine.
Because if you
what's
don't
yours
come
is
together
mine.
and merge everything together, there's going to be a line of division within your relationship. So there's division.
100%.
And money may be the issue, quote unquote, but it creates division because you're basically living 2 separate lives. You're still living as single individuals in the confines of being married if your money is single.
Yes.
So that's what creates the issue.
And unfortunately, for all my believers and my real spiritual people, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing. It ain't talking about that. It ain't talking about money.
It's not
that has nothing contextually, that's context wise, that ain't got nothing to do with money.
Read the whole chapter.
Please read the whole context and study that, because that ain't what they're talking about. Here's the challenge, guys. Most people recognize that if I am in touch with your purse strings, I'm often in touch with everything that you're close to. And the reason why is because people have a relationship with their money. Right. That's why they don't want to bring it into the marriage. So here's what we often suggest to people that we're coaching. We're talking about how do you guard against money or money problems or financial issues leading to you guys having problems. One of the first things that I often share with people, especially when we're coaching them, is that you guys have to clearly understand the person's relationship with money and get on the same page and find the common ground of where you can agree. Oftentimes you will find that in the relationship you will have a spender and a saver. You will have a person that really loves,
Both aren't spenders.
hopefully you both aren't spenders. But the person who is the spender generally don't have much regard for money. They don't have a relationship with money a healthy relationship with money. And in some cases, the saver don't have a healthy relationship with money in that they can be a hoarder. They want to hold on to every single thing. Therein lies the problem. Here's one of the things I'm going to suggest off the break. You probably are going to need a person to help mitigate that and help bring you guys closer. This is where I would get with a financial planner who understands people. Not just a money person. Here's where, as coaches, we're able to coach people through some things that they're going through that really can help them. Sheri, 20 years ago, when I recognized that I was horrible, I was the spender, you was the saver with money, I made some choices to do some things that changed the entire perspective. Give people a little bit insight on what you discovered when you met me in my relationship with money and how we had to change it. It's getting ready to get real.
Right. So Glenn had an unhealthy relationship with money. He was making a lot of money when we first met, but he did not know how to manage money
at all.
He was a spender. He did not know how to manage his money at all.
Hey, Sophia, good to see you.
For me, on the other end,
the money person, y'all follow Sophia Melanie.
Yes, she can help.
This is her area. I'm sorry.
She can help you. Whereas for me, I was making a pretty decent income, but I wasn't, I had learned how to make the most out of the little that I had. I knew how to manage my funds. And so when we got together and I realized that we were on both opposite ends of the spectrum, in order for us to be successful, I had to have a hard conversation with Glenn. I was like, you can't just keep spending. And so we decided to allow me to manage all of our income, manage all of the funds for our household. And so I've been managing that over the years because, Glenn will say oftentimes if I left him in control of it, we'd be homeless with nothing because he would spend everything
100%.
Because he does not think that way. And this is where I think that it's crucial that if you're not married yet, if you're in a relationship, this is a hard conversation you have to have before you get married.
100%.
I think it's beneficial that you have that conversation before. Now, if you are married, you can still have the conversation, but you guys need to sit down and talk about your strengths. Which person is more adapt or more catered to being that financial manager?
That's who they are.
Who is that their strength? And let that person do that.
Yep.
It's not a matter of who's making more money or who's making, the least amount of money. It's the person that can manage the funds the best.
Correct.
And that's the person that should handle that. And the key to even money, and also we talked about the whole infidelity, and we're going to talk about that next, is that I firmly believe that the number one reason
number 3
for divorce is number 3.
Is on this list, it's number 3, but we believe it's number one. If somebody came to me and they say, what is the number one reason out of all the people you've ever coached, out of your own personal experiences, out of what you've seen over the landscape of relationships in your lifetime, what would you say, Glenn, is the number one reason for divorce? I would have to say it is the lack of communication. It's communication. That's number 3 on this list. It would be tops on mine. Right. I want you to put in the chat, number 3 is communication. Number 3 is communication. Chef Phyllis, good to see you on Instagram.
Right, and I think the reason, I honestly believe that communication is the number one reason for why people get divorced, because even dealing with infidelity, even dealing with money, if you communicate the issues that lead up to that, you can avoid that from happening. So with money, if money is an issue, if you communicate about it, it doesn't become an issue. With infidelity, whatever the areas of lack or whatever areas of miscommunication or whatever's going on, if you communicate with that, if I feel like I'm not getting enough attention and I communicate that, and like we have always been like this, I'll come home and tell Glenn when somebody flirts with me. I'll be like, I was in the grocery store, guess what happened? Or guess who hit me up on Facebook? Right. Or somebody from my past hit me up and I'll be like, guess who sent me a DM today?
All up in my DMs. Talking about girl. And I'm like, what'd he say? Look, for me, it's like I'm treating it like, ooh, this is getting ready to get juicy. Because here's what I know, guys. Because of our ability to communicate effectively, first of all, let me just say this about communication. Communication at its nature, at its core, at its DNA, is about sending and receiving, transmitting and receiving. Here's the problem. Most people have no problem transmitting. But because most of us have a problem or we're challenged in the area of connecting to people, here's a challenge. We don't, or we are not received well. And if the other person on the other end doesn't receive your communication or receive your transmission, communication doesn't happen. So therefore, that's the breakdown. That means that the sender, it's on the sender to make sure that they are couching the conversation in a way that the recipient can receive it, is willing to receive it. When you're talking about the lack of communication, the way you guard against that is that you have to, listen to me carefully, guys, put this in the chat, you have to develop the skill.
Right.
Develop the skill. Put that in the chat. Develop the skill. We're talking about the top 10 reasons or most common reasons for divorce. Number 1, we said, was infidelity, according to this list. Number 2 was money or your finances and not being able to bring them together. Number 3, we're saying, is the lack of communication. Personally, for Sheri and I, we think that's number 1. But according to this list, it's number 3. And what we're telling you guys not only what the top 10 things are, but how to guard against them. And when it comes to communication, the way you guard against that is you do the work that it takes to build and to grow the skill set of being able to communicate. And I'm going to promise you, for us, that came from a coach. That came from being in community with people who communicated on a very high functioning level. And as a result, Sheri and I, in 20 years, we've only had a half a dozen major arguments, period. And so we don't argue. Right. We can relatively say we don't argue, but it doesn't mean we don't disagree.
Right, and that leads us to number 4.
Number 4. Number 4.
Which is constant arguing.
Put it in the chat. Constant arguing. This is one of the reasons that lead to divorce. Go ahead, babe.
And constant arguing does not mean that you don't have disagreements. You're going to have disagreements in your relationship because you're two individuals, you think differently. But arguing is when you guys are, you're cursing at each other, you're saying things that you don't mean, you're belittling each other. It's just unnecessary.
Yep.
It's if you learn the skill set of communicating, you don't have to argue.
Correct.
If you learn how to communicate your concerns, you can communicate your hurts, you communicate whatever you're feeling in a healthy, functional manner, there's no need for argument.
Right.
You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to scream down on a person to get their attention. You don't have to do that. It's not necessarily, it's disrespectful. It's hurtful.
It's unproductive. It really is.
Like I said, and the thing is, people always say, they'll say something in an argument, I didn't really mean it. I'm a firm believer, out of the abundance of the heart,
the mouth speaks.
The mouth speaks. And so when I say something in the heat of the moment in an argument, that's something that's in my heart.
It was in your heart to begin with, or you wouldn't have said it.
And so that's why speaking and arguing when you're emotional, you're going to say things that are hurtful. And so it's better to calm down, wait until you both are in a calm place, have the conversation. You should be having a conversation. I was going to say conversing. You should have the conversation with your spouse. Not yell at your spouse,
right.
Not argue with your spouse. You guys, you're adults. You should be able to sit down and discuss whatever it is.
Absolutely, and again, that's gonna we're gonna move on. We're talking about the top 10 or the most common reasons for divorce according to myriad.com. I just pulled up an article and went down what they listed, and I said, let's talk about this. Next week we're going to be in the DMV broadcasting Breakfast with the Brookses live from the DC area, but we're going to be interviewing Keith Battle, great friend of mine. We've known each other for a very long time. He's just written a book called Side Chickology. I've been trying to get him on Breakfast with the Brookses forever. And this is going to be a great opportunity to talk about sort of the reason behind why men and women cheat. Right. And so it kind of, really encouraged me to talk about some other reasons. But number 5, and we definitely want you guys to share this out and let people know about it. We're really going to go in next week. We're going to have a panel discussion. We're going to have people in the room who've gone through this, who are winning in this area. And I promise you, it's really going to help you. So number 5, and we're talking about, again, the most common reasons for divorce. And I know this one is going to sound super shallow. This one is going to sound like I can't believe that this is even on the list. But those who have been married for any length of time, those who have been divorced will understand and agree. But number 5 is weight gain.
Or I would say even weight loss.
And I was gonna
Weight
I was gonna go there too.
A change in your physical appearance.
Let's couch it that way.
Right, a change in your physical appearance. And I think that for me, that is a clear sign of immaturity.
Yeah.
When a person uses that, and you'd be surprised how many people actually get divorced based on that. But to me, it's a sign of immaturity because with life,
Yeah.
with babies,
Yep.
with stresses of life, you're not. If you get married at 20, at 50, you're not going to look like you did when you.
You're
were
just
20.
not.
It's nature.
Even if it's similar, yeah.
Gravity.
It's just not
happens.
going to happen. Right.
Not to say that I do believe that you do owe it to yourself and owe it to your spouse to take care of yourself.
Yep.
To try to stay as healthy as possible, to try to stay in shape as much as you can. But life happens.
Yep.
And I don't think that it's fair for an individual to use that as an excuse. And usually, like I said, I think that is clearly a sign of immaturity on the part of the individual to saying that that's their reason. And at that point, it's nothing you can do with that.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how many people actually use that as a reason. And to me, that is just
So let's talk about guarding against that. And again, guys, you have to understand that when you guard against something, you're understanding that there's a work to be done on both parts. You can do this yourself, but you can't do this for the other person. And I'm a firm believer that if you work on you over a long enough period of time, you'll begin changing in a way that will make you attractive. But the other is true as well. Oftentimes, change repels people. And the reason why is because of the standard many times that the change dictates. I'll give you an example. If a person comes into a relationship and they're heavy and they lose a ton of weight over the period of time, let's say within the first 5 years, you drop 100 pounds. That's a whole person. That's a lot of weight. If you change over 5 years to better yourself, your health, your partner may feel some type of way because of your change. Now, you would think that because you're losing weight, they would feel good about that and they would celebrate you. Sometimes the truth of the matter is it shows them that they're not diligent. It shows them that they're not consistent. It shows them that they don't want to grow and do better. Maybe weight ain't their issue. Maybe bad eating habits is their issue. I know plenty of skinny people who have heart attacks because their blood pressure is off the meter. Their cholesterol is off the Richter scale. So I'm talking about the physical appearance that way, but the way you guard against that is that you invite people to come along for the ride. Mm-hmm. You work on changing the environment. Here's what I am conscious of. I am conscious that my change affects you.
right.
So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to force my change down your throat. I'm going to create an environment that allows you to warm up to my change. So if it's me gaining weight, it is, you know what, babe, I have been gaining weight over the years, and I know that physically, and my man, I have been tired and I have not been wanting to perform in the bedroom, I'm stressed out at work. I'm working on that. Let me do what I can. I'm now bringing you into my world as to why the change. Here's what destroys the relationship. It's not the fact that you change. It's not the fact that you gain the weight. It's why you gain the weight. And the fact that you're completely unaware of the fact that your change affects everyone else. So the way I guard against that, if I'm the person that's the weight is changing, is I'm communicating. If I'm the person that is on the receiving end of that, is I'm also communicating, because now I'm telling you, like you told me, how that felt for you.
Right. And also, I just want to add another caveat to that when we're talking about weight, because if you lose weight or gain weight because of illness or something like that, I think that that's a different
100%.
Something different.
100%.
And I just, for me, like I said, I think the whole anything physical, when you're talking about that as a reason for divorce, I honestly believe
it's a pure maturity issue.
It's a maturity issue. Yep. Because if a person gets sick and they lose weight, if a person gets sick and they gain weight, they're bedridden and they gain weight, you can't, for you to hold that against that person is a sign of immaturity. And whether they, it's because they choose to do it. I think that when a person chooses, they're going to make a lifestyle change. I think it's great to try to bring your partner along on that journey, but they have a choice. They can decide they don't want to.
I agree.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do what you got to do for yourself.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that that's clear. So clearly, I can't change the other person's perspective. Right. If you're dealing with a flat out immaturity issue, you have a whole host of other problems, and that brings us to number 6. Put that in the chat. Number 6. If you're ready for number 6, put it in the chat. Number 6. If you're ready for number 6, put that in the chat. If you're just jumping on this your first time, put first time in the chat. We certainly want to engage you offline. But number 6 is unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations is one of the top 10 most common reasons that it aids when it comes to the relationship ending in divorce. Right. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's huge.
Right. And unrealistic expectations are typically expectations that you have internally that you've never shared with your spouse, but you're holding them accountable for it. So in your mind, you believe your spouse is supposed to do A, B, C, and D, but you never told them they're supposed to do A, B, C, and D. But then you're upset with them all the time because they're not doing A, B, C, and D. But they don't know.
Yep.
And so it's an unrealistic. I have this expectation that you're going to. I can't even think of something. You're going to have dinner cooked for me every day. You're going to have dinner cooked every day, but we never have a conversation about that.
Right.
And so I come home from work and I got an attitude every day because dinner's not cooked, but I never told you. And it's my thought that you work from home, so you should be able to have dinner ready every day when I get home.
Yep.
But I never have that conversation. But I'm holding you to a standard of something that I've never shared. That's what makes it an unrealistic expectation. Your expectation can be that you expect for your husband to work and you to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. If you guys have that conversation and they're in a position financially that they can do that, that's a realistic expectation, but you got to have a conversation.
And I will say this, and Sophia just got finished chiming in, and I think you're right, Sophia, it goes right back to communication.
Right.
The way you guard against unrealistic expectations is you have the talk.
Right.
That's how you guard against that. Sheri is talking about a real live scenario. I work from the home. I work from my home office, right? She works outside of the house. She has a 9 to 5. She goes out every day and comes back home. I don't have any feeling one way or the other as to what she's thinking unless she says something. So if her expectation is that because I'm home, she would like me to have dinner prepared, it's unfair for her to judge me against that when she's not had the conversation and then got agreement from me.
Right.
Because I'm of the opinion, and you, I know, share this, just because I'm home doesn't mean I automatically am supposed to do nothing.
Right.
Let me tell you why.
Because he's working.
Please say that again, Sheri.
He's working.
Sheri, say that one more time.
He is working. He ain't home with his feet up on the couch sitting eating bowls of cereal all day, just chilling watching Jerry Springer.
Come on now. Now she old. We old like Jerry Springer old. Right. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, they got that new thing going on right now. I'm old like Jerry Springer old.
Right.
Sheri, let me tell you something. And I think that what happens is in the realm of unmet expectations, because the person that's leaving the house in that scenario and they're punching a clock or they're going into their 9 to 5, it's assumed that, like so for instance, the reason you're not paying you're not running around and running errands on your 9 to 5 is because you're locked into that place.
Right.
But here's what some people do. Some people go to their 9 to 5 and they still paying their bills. They just doing it online. Right. Some people go to their 9 to 5 and they're still handling personal business. They just do it from their desk. And so if that's the kind of way you roll, then your expectation of me is the same, because you're home, you can wash a load of clothes. But here's what you have to understand. If you're dealing with a person like me, who when they're locked in, they're locked in.
Right.
Sheri, how long can I stay in my office?
All day.
How long can I stay in my office?
All day.
And not come out?
All day.
Not go to the bathroom?
All day.
Not eat?
All day.
That is who I am. So if she don't say something, and so when you leave the house, when it comes to expectations, what do you do for me sometimes?
I usually shoot you a text like, hey, if you get a moment, can you do this, that, and the other? You respond, not going to be able to do that now. I'll do it later, or sure, I can get that done. And then typically what I do is later in the day, I'll text them and remind them, hey, don't forget. because I know when he's focused, and so it's not fair for me to expect him to do something. He's at work. And this, I mean, our scenario, he's at work. Even though he's physically in the home, he's at work. So just like, don't call me at work, ask me, hey, can you go pick up my dry cleaner? No, I'm at work.
Why would I do that? Right. I'd be glad to do it when I get off.
When I get off. And so, I mean.
Does that make sense, guys?
It's about communication. And like we said before, for us, the number one reason over all of these reasons is communication.
I ain't messing with Jacqueline. Jacqueline, you in there cutting up in the chat. I'm not messing with you. I'm looking down at the chat. I ain't talking to you, Look, we're going to go to number 7 because unrealistic expectations will absolutely lead to this part right here. Right. And Phyllis, I appreciate you for chiming in. We ain't forgot you over here on Instagram. Appreciate that. Do me a favor. Share this out. Guys, share this out on YouTube. But number seven, put it in the chat, lack of intimacy. Yes. That is one of the biggest reasons why people are getting divorced, because there's no connection there, and that's real.
Right.
That's real.
Right, and I think at the root of intimacy is a friendship. You have to develop a friendship with your spouse. You have to develop a friendship where you want to spend time with that person. That's what breeds intimacy. Intimacy is not about sex.
Come on, say it again.
That's a part of intimacy, but intimacy is closeness. It's wanting to be close to that person. And if you're not friends, you're not going to want to be close to that person because you don't like that person.
Yep.
So you're going to want to like your spouse. So you have to work on developing a relationship, a friendship where you like them.
Yep, absolutely.
You really like them.
Right.
It's like to spend time.
You can do that again if you want to.
And you want to spend time.
I don't need a professional cuddler. I got me one right here, and I don't have to pay her.
Intimacy.
I do pay her, but it's
intimacy is about closeness,
right?
And you have to think of it that way. It's wanting to be close to your spouse, and that starts with a relationship. If you're liking that person, if you don't like your spouse, you're not going to be intimate.
And that's funny because when I think about guarding against intimacy, what I'm going to encourage you to do is foster the friendship.
Right.
When we talk about, because we're not only giving you the top most common reasons why, but we also want to give you guys how to guard against it. Changing lives for better. Thanks for jumping on Instagram. Do me a favor. Put your government name in the chat. Put your government name so that I can address you personally. I appreciate it. Love me some Brookses. So clearly, y'all know us and love us, but I don't know who Changing Lives for Better is on Instagram. So do me a favor. Put your name in the chat. We love y'all too. But I'm telling you, the way that you guard against the lack of intimacy is you foster the friendship.
Yes.
Put that in the chat. Foster the friend. Hey Pat, love you too, baby girl. I love it, Pat. Remember Pat from the fact. Love you, girl. Listen. When you foster the friendship, Sheri, when we got together, when we first met, we were friends for about a good year. Close to a year before I even started looking at you like, she I think I might like her.
That was kind of cute.
She said, look, I don't know, shorty, what in the world?
But friendship, let me say this about in marriage, friendship I think is essential, and I think that's a component that a lot of people don't look at and they don't consider it. When you think about your friends, your real close friends, you guys will go through stuff. Y'all have knockdown, drag out arguments. You'll have disagreements.
Yep.
You guys may not talk for months.
Yep.
But you always come back together. And if they ever need you, you're always there. That's the type of relationship you should have with your spouse.
Yep.
That your friend, you're gonna always be there for that person. You're gonna go through stuff with them. But a person, if I just like you, we just cool. If you do something, I'm gonna cut you off.
Yep.
In a heartbeat.
And won't even give it as much thought.
Because we ain't friends.
We ain't friends like that.
I mean, we was cool,
like you like that, right?
Like that. So your spouse should be your friend. Because
wow.
This is the person that you are going to, this is your ride or die.
That's deep, babe.
This is the person that you want to be able to go through any and everything with.
That's deep. That's deep. No, Linwood says, speak on it, Sheri. That's deep. Let me say this, because I think that, and this goes back to the whole weight loss piece. Mm-hmm. I don't care how much weight my friend gains.
Right. They still my friend.
They still my friend.
It's like what?
Like really? You might tell
you need to get your fat butt up
and go work out, but you ain't gonna get a fat. I'm not leaving you.
Right.
I may switch up.
Come on, I'm gonna go walk with you. Let's go walking.
Let's go walking.
I'm gonna go hang out with my
Or
friends.
I'm buying some different kind of food.
Right.
That's how.
I'm gonna help you out.
Let me tell you
as
something
your
right now.
friend.
Cherie will help me
But
out
if
in
I
a
don't-
minute.
Right, but if I don't like you,
Right.
I'm like,
Right. No, babe, you will change.
I'm not investing in
Let
you.
me say this. Let me say this. Let me say this. I need people to understand something you just said. When you are someone's friend, you will lead them in change.
Right.
The way you used to lead me when it came to my eating habits is you stopped buying garbage to put in the house.
Right.
I need y'all to understand that. If she didn't buy it, I couldn't eat it. Cause y'all need to know me.
He don't go to the grocery store.
And if I do, I ain't.
He goes with me.
And
he ain't gonna buy
it's
himself.
ball and chain. It's like, come on. I'm like, y'all ever see how when you walking the dog and he don't want to walk and you're like, no.
Right, he's not gonna go buy the groceries, so I buy it because I see that there's something going on. You need to switch up in a certain area. I see that you're eating unhealthy. I'm gonna switch up because you're my friend, and also as my friend, as your friend, I want you to be around.
Right, you can't bang the table.
I want you to be around.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm invested, and I think that that's the part that a lot of couples, they're not invested in one another because they're not friends.
Yep.
It's just we're in this. We married, but
Right.
and it kills me when we're dealing with couples and they, well, if it don't work out, I'll just leave. I'm like, that should not be an option.
Right. Right.
Marriage, if divorce is an option, you have a problem.
Right.
The fact that you even speak of it as an option.
Right.
Is a problem.
Right.
Because my friend, unless he die or I die, ain't nobody going nowhere.
Yep.
That divorce is not an option.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All this stuff can happen. We're gonna work through it.
100%.
Now it might be funky for a minute in the house. But we gonna work through it because you ain't going nowhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. Love to be healthy. That's Karen on Instagram says this conversation is so needed this morning. Offering the solution to the problem is exactly what's needed. No, I got you. If I don't like you, I'm not investing in you. Pat, that is so
and you shouldn't
true.
marry somebody you don't like.
Say that again.
You should not marry somebody you don't like.
Single people, listen again.
I don't care how much money they got. I don't care how much potential they got. I don't care how cute they are.
Come on.
If you don't like,
why would you marry them?
If you don't like them at their core,
right,
you should not marry
right.
them.
Charlene Hawkins said that's right, and I'm gonna tell Charlene's in them business. We're gonna see y'all next week. Look, Charlene, I told George when he was here this past week, we gotta find some time this weekend. I don't know when it is. It might be a drive-by, but we got to hug your neck because we miss you guys. But here's what Charlene said. That's right. I know Charlene and George, when they first got married, they was at each other's throats and couldn't figure it out. But here's what I know, because of history they had together, I know that there was a friendship in there somewhere that caused them to fight.
Right.
It caused them to say, wait a minute, it shouldn't be like this. And when you like a person, you'll fight for that person.
Right.
Does that make sense, guys? Right. So quickly, go ahead.
Before we go to the next one, for those of you that are just joining us, or those of you who have joined us for the first time here on YouTube, we want to thank you for joining our channel.
Yep.
We want to ask you to make sure that you subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and also make sure that you ring the bell so that you get reminders weekly of when we either upload videos or when we go live. We want to tell you how much we appreciate you guys for coming on our channel. Also, Instagram, thank you guys so much for following us and for joining us for Breakfast with the Brooks.
Please click the link in the bio Instagram, and that will take you to our YouTube channel, and subscribe there, because we're almost at 350, I think, and I think we can get there today. If all of y'all who are not subscribed to the channel get it. Why 350? I don't know. It's just I don't know, bragging rights. I don't know. But do me a favor, like it and go from there. So number 8, if you're ready for number 8, put number 8 in the chat. Put number 8 in the chat. Put number 8 in the chat if you're ready for number 8. Babe, this is a deal breaker. In church, they call this being unequally yoked. From a scriptural standpoint, there's so much validity here. But number 8 is the lack of equality. That's what leads, one of the top 10 reasons, most common reasons that lead to divorce. And when we're talking about equality, we're talking about what each of you bring to the relationship. Oftentimes, if the relationship is out of balance or off kilter, there's not this feeling of true partnership. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Right. And a marriage should be a partnership. It should not be, number one, I don't believe in this whole 50-50 thing. I think you both should bring 100% of yourselves into the relationship. But when it comes to the responsibility in the relationship, there should be shared responsibility. It should not all fall on one person doing everything. You both have to contribute. You both have to be invested in the relationship. And when the relationship is in a place where one person feels like they're doing all the investing and the other person isn't, that's when there's a lack of equality. And I think that it takes two people to tango. It takes two people in order to make a relationship successful. I can't want the relationship all on my own and you just sitting over there chilling.
Yep.
You don't care what's going on. It's not going to work.
Yep.
We both have to be invested. We both have to be willing to do the work. And marriage is work.
Yep.
It takes work to make a marriage work, but you both have to work at it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Now, there may be seasons.
Do me a favor. They say you sound distant, so I need you to sit up.
There may be seasons when maybe one person is, because of things that are going on with them, that they're not giving as much as the other, but that should not be the norm. There may be seasons when you go through where one person is doing more than the other, but that should not remain. It should come back to a level playing field where you're both investing at one point in time, because people have things that go on in their life. They have stresses, they have health issues, they have things that go on. So there may be seasons when one of you is not giving as much, but that should not be the norm.
Yep.
For the most part, it should be you should be on a level playing field where you're both investing as much in the relationship.
100%, 100%. You're welcome, Nikay. Listen, guys, and I'm going to just say this because we got to get ready to get out of here. We've been on here for an hour. I knew we would take a long time on this one just because there was so many things that we wanted to really cover. But I want to say this last thing on lack of equality. Jacqueline, I think somebody put in this should be number one. One of the things that I think that is dangerous, and I think that this happens often in the dating stage of relationships, is that people do not put enough weight into what it is that they bring to the relationship. Mm-hmm. And because you start the relationship that way, here's a secret. Listen to me carefully. This is your coach talking. Listen to me. The way a relationship starts, almost 100% of the time, is the way it will end.
Right.
Listen to me carefully, guys. The way you start something, I don't care if it's dating, marriage. I don't care if it's a relationship with your job. I don't care if it's relationships, the way they start is strong. There's a strong indicator that that's the way it's going to that's the track that it's going to travel on.
Right. That's the foundation. And so as you go through life in your relationship, that's the place you'll always return back to. You can always go back to that starting point. So if it started off wrong, when you return back to that,
oftentimes that's your default.
Right. You don't have anything to go back to. But if you had a solid relationship, a solid friendship in the beginning.
Yes.
No matter what you go through over the course of your relationship, you guys can always return back to that.
Yes.
And then you can build from that. But if the place that you're going back to is already cracked and broken,
then you're in problem. You got a problem.
And just jacked up,
there's going to be a problem.
You have nowhere to start from.
There's going to be a problem.
That actually goes to number 9, which is being prepared for marriage.
I love it, baby. You right on it.
You have to be prepared, and being prepared does not mean you got to have all your ducks in a row as far as your finances got to be all right. You got to have all that stuff. But being prepared for marriage is knowing who you are as an individual and being committed to giving 100% of yourself to the relationship. And I think that key to that also is having built a friendship. I think that is the foundation for marriage, is that you have
honestly
to be
believe
friends. That if you guys have a solid friendship, then you guys can work on, everything. You're not going to work through everything before marriage, because there are a lot of things that aren't going to really come to light till after you get married.
Yeah.
We have these couples that are like, well, we want to make sure we're good, that everything, you can't.
Good luck with that.
Certain situations aren't going to come to light until after you get married. So you're not going to know what it's like to go through certain things until you are married.
And you go through it. And here's what I will say. Even when you're living together, for those of you guys
it ain't the same.
Who are living together, the fundamental difference there is that you have options that married people on paper and by covenant don't have.
Right. You just living together. You can up and leave.
I don't care how long you've been living together.
You can be together for 20 years. Y'all been living together. But
I can just dissolve that. As a matter of fact, I know people who choose to live together. I met a guy one time. This was years ago. He was in I think it was 26 years in that he was living with his girlfriend. Crazy. And I asked him, why won't y'all get married? He said, because I'm not about to give my ex-wife everything I got, number one. Number two, here's the problem. Number two, guys, I can get out anytime I want. Now, it's 26 years in. He talking about I can get out anytime I want. Now, it looks like Instagram, and I'm just noticing this. We got about 49 seconds, it looks like, in our feed here. I didn't know that they timed you. So I'm going to give you number 10 really quickly. We're not going to go into that. We're going to keep going. So go over to YouTube, click the link in the bio right now, Instagram, because it's going to cut you guys off in 30 seconds. But number 10 is abuse.
And that's either physical, mental, or emotional.
And we're going to go into that, how to guard against that in a little bit once we run out of time over on Instagram. I appreciate y'all on Instagram. Y'all do me a favor, click the link in the bio, join us here on YouTube, and we're going to continue to talk about this subject after it times you out over here. But listen, for my YouTubers, listen to me very carefully, guys. We're still talking about not being prepared for marriage. Sheri, there is a work that when you do it and you take your time before you say I do, would you agree that it directly translates into the longevity of the marriage?
Yes.
Now that we have been we're 20 years old. Mm-hmm. We both did it before. We had significant amount of time in before. Would you say that our winning has more to do with the preparation we did on the front end? Or would you say it had more to do with the fact that we just were, for these other reasons? What kind of weight would you give that?
I think the preparation we did on the front end played a significant role. I think that awareness was key. I know for myself, the first time I got married, I was 19. I was in the military. I was in love and got married, but I had no understanding, no idea of what marriage really was. Even though my parents, they're still married today, I didn't really understand marriage. They were together, but I never really got to understand marriage. They didn't have the healthiest of relationships. And so I didn't know what marriage entailed. I had no idea. I was clueless. For me, marriage was just the next step. You dating somebody, you just get married. It was an extension of being a boyfriend, girlfriend. I didn't really understand the commitment. I didn't understand all that went into it. The second time I got married, I was a little older, but I still didn't really have a clear understanding.
Yep.
And I think that when we got married, partially because of the 2 failed marriages before, but I think more so because of the work I had done on myself after the second marriage.
Yep.
Just dealing with myself,
I
with
agree.
the things within me that I recognized that had played to the detriment of both of my previous relationships. I realized that, I was walking into this more prepared, that I had an idea of what marriage looked like. I had an idea of the things that I knew I had done that didn't work. And so it was basically, as long as I don't do those things, we should be okay. And I think the thing that really was key for both of us, we had talked about our past relationships, but we also agreed early on to talk through everything. Mm-hmm. Even though I wasn't the best communicator in the early years of our relationships, because you always brought everything to the forefront. We weren't going to just skirt over stuff. We weren't going to just avoid issues. We were going to deal with the issues. Mm-hmm. And I think that doing that work on the front end prepared me to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's key that you get prepared as much as you can before. Like I said, you're never going to have everything lined up. It's not going to be perfect beforehand, but I think you need to be aware. That's why I strongly recommend couples to go through a real premarital course before you get married. And when I say a real one that really delves in and talks about the issues, because a lot of people will go through these premarital courses or premarital counseling or premarital coaching, and it's real surface. Yeah. And that doesn't help you. Yeah. You're just talking about, if you're doing a 2-week premarital, that 2 weeks is not enough. Right.
Yeah. When we have a premarital coaching track that we take people through who want to get married, and it's 6 weeks long. Minimum. It can actually be 8 weeks depending on how often they want to meet. And the reason why is because we are going to unearth things that will make you stop, pause, and consider, should we move forward? We have coached people that in our premarital coaching decided we shouldn't be married. Right. I'm going to let that breathe. Mm-hmm. We have coached people who at 4 or 5 weeks into, 6 weeks into an 8-week coaching program, they've decided, you know what, I'm grateful that I went through this because it helped me to define why we shouldn't be married. Right. Most people are not willing to subject themselves to that amount of discovery,
Right.
truth, and self-awareness. They're not willing to do that. And the reason why is because most people come to marriage counselors, pastoral counseling, even relationship coaching to say, I don't want you to coach me. I want you to co-sign.
Right. They want somebody to co-sign.
They just want you to say, hey, check the box,
Y'all good. Y'all did that.
pay the money, give me the paper, let's keep it moving.
Right.
I've often said I am thrilled when people come to me and there's no date set yet.
Right.
I'm thrilled. You know why? Because there's no pressure, right? So single people, if you're listening, do me a huge favor. If you are dating someone and there is a remote possibility that if y'all been dating more than a year and you don't see, let me say it this way, you really like this person and you see yourself being able to be with this person for the rest of your life, it may be time for you just to come on through a premarital coaching track just to see. Before you set a date, before you buy a dress, before you get just to see. Why? Because the truth of the matter is that I would have paid a considerable amount of money to save me the heartache, the money, the drama, the stress that I got having gone through a divorce after 12 years.
Right.
I promise you.
It's an investment worth it. And I think that, you need somebody that's going to help to challenge your thinking, that's going to ask the hard questions so that you guys can have the hard discussions. Like most people go through premarital counseling, they don't talk about money in detail. They don't talk about sex and intimacy in detail. They don't talk about
we're going to talk about
values in detail. And if you don't know those things on the front end before you get married, you're just basing it off of, we like each other, we spend time together, we good, we like spending time together. We've never had any arguments, but that's because those issues haven't come up yet. And you don't know where each other stands on them.
Right.
And so you need that. There's some hard conversations that need to be had before you get married so that you know where the person stands. Now you may disagree, but at least you know where they stand and you can decide, okay, well, I can live with that disagreement.
Yeah, we're going to move on to number 10 and child raising issues. 100%, Nikkei, before you have children or if you are blending a family. Can I tell you guys, oh my God, the amount of stress and drama and change you go through trying to blend a family can wreck a marriage in a New York minute. I mean quickly.
Yes,
that's why, look at the statistics. Look at the statistics. Why do you think second marriages end in divorce more than first? Why do you think third marriages end in a divorce more than the second ones? Because at that point, most often you're blending.
Right.
In most cases, you're blending.
Right, so you got a whole bunch of people involved in your marriage.
You got a whole situation going on. So number 10, we're going to go to number 10 and we're going to be done. We know that we've gone pretty long on this one. I appreciate y'all for hanging in there. Yeah, I'm watching the amount of people that's in the room. Y'all jokers ain't going nowhere. So we're almost done. Number 10, put number 10 in the chat. I want to talk and give a little bit of time to this, Sheri, because I think it's really, really important. On some levels, I think people get this, but on some levels, I don't think they get it at all. And they don't recognize the dangers in this. Number 10. If you're ready for number 10, put number 10 in the chat. If you're ready for number 10, put number 10 in the chat. Here's what I want to share with you. You have a particular experience with this that's unique in the sense that you've gone through probably every form of abuse within the first two marriages that you've had, everyone that we see now as coaches.
Right.
And it really messed you up coming into our relationship where the first 2 or 3 years, and I'm grateful that we were committed to doing the work, I identified some stuff.
Right.
I was able to see, whoa, wait a minute. I don't think you were aware of this and how weighty that was.
Right.
And so you were bringing things from your first and second marriage, attempting to anyway, in the hours. And I was able to say, time out, here's the deal. I don't know who you think I am, but I ain't that guy.
Right.
And I was able to help walk you through that process. Guys, number 10 is abuse. Put abuse in the chat. Put abuse in the chat. And Dr. Miles Monroe, God rest his soul, broke this down in a way, probably I heard him say this 30 years ago, and I never will forget it. He said, abuse is simply abnormal use. The abnormal use of something. When you abnormally use anything, see yourself as the person that's abusing that thing. Go ahead, babe.
Right, and I just want to say this disclaimer. I do not condone, we do not condone physical abuse. I am a strong component that if you are being physically abused, you need to get out of the relationship. I'm not saying you need to file for divorce, but you need to get out of that situation until that situation is rectified. Too many people stay in physically abusive relationships and it turns left real quick. I mean, it can go from, I don't want to say normal physical abuse.
Lean into the mic a little bit more.
It can go from, hitting, punching to turning into something deadly very quickly. So if you are in a physically abusive relationship, I strongly recommend that you reach out to somebody, find you a safe place, find a safe person that you can get out of that relationship, remove yourself from that situation while you guys work on possibly resolving that, whether the other party needs to go through anger management, whatever. And so I'm not condoning that at all. There are many forms of abuse. It's not just physical abuse. There's also emotional abuse. There's emotional and verbal abuse. All forms of abuse are deadly. And when I say that, it's deadly to the person that's being abused, whether it can be an emotional death, it can be a spiritual death, because you're killing a part of that person. The person that's being abused, a part of them is being killed every time that they're abused. And so I think a lot of times people overlook or they excuse abuse. They make excuses for it. It's amazing that in our society today, there are still so many people that still take blame or take on they take on the blame as the abuser, that it's their fault.
Yep.
It is never your fault when someone abuses you.
Please say that again.
It's never your fault. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what you've said. I don't care what you've done. It is not your fault that someone is being abusive to you.
100%.
You're not responsible for their actions. Every person is responsible for how they act and how they treat people.
So one of the things I want to interject really quickly, guys, and I need y'all to understand this. When we say that it is never your fault for the abuse or to suffer abuse, oftentimes an abuser or an abusee, a person who's being abused, takes on this shame-filled perspective. In other words, if I didn't do this, he wouldn't have done that. Let me help y'all understand something very clear, and I'm going to say it as clear as I possibly can. Sheri does not control what I do.
Right.
There is nothing she can do to make me do anything. I don't care how much she fusses, how much she rants, how much she complains, you can't make me cheat. I don't care how much you nag, how much you bitch and moan. I'm going to just say it just like that because I'm your coach and I'm not your pastor. You can't make me cuss you out.
Right.
I don't care how much sex you hold back from me. I don't care what you say to me. You can't cause another human being to do anything. Even if you put a gun to my head, I have a choice to die or to do.
No.
Either way is my choice. Let me explain what I mean by that. I want to rid the person who's being abused. I want you to rid from your mind that you are playing a part in someone stepping over a line and doing that. Now, I am not saying that there aren't environments that breed abuse or that breed mistreatment. There are. I'm not saying that you don't have parts to play where you're you're provoking, and that's on you do. I never will forget, my mother told me a story about my aunt, one of my aunts. I won't tell which one it was, so don't nobody get mad with me. But my mother was living, when we were kids, my mother was living with one of my aunts and we were children. And she said that my aunt would go to my uncle and berate him and get in his face and talk bad about him, and he would walk away and he would be trying to get away from her, and she would be getting in his face and all that sort of stuff. And one time, and she used to say, listen, you better stop that because he's going to respond at some point. And one time he pushed her, and I want to say he pushed her down the steps. It didn't permanently, scar her physically. But what my mother said is that, my aunt had the opportunity not to push that man or provoke him and put him in the corner where he got to choose that. So that's one thing. And then he also, I don't care, he could have kept walking around and left the building. So he didn't have to do that. So I want you guys just to understand that abuse is never about you. It's always about the abuser and what they're going through. That's why, again, I'm going to say this: to guard against abuse takes putting up a for real boundary.
And the other part, as much as it's not the abusee's fault, it's not your fault that you're being abused. You can't play, and I have to be very sensitive when I say this. I'm gonna talk about me. In my first marriage, it was a quote unquote physically abusive relationship, but I was a provoker. I instigated a lot of it. I hit first a lot of times. And so I could not say that I was necessarily a victim because I was being abusive as well. And so
I love that. I love that, babe.
Being abusive, I could not put it all 100% on him.
I agree.
Because I was also being abusive to him. And so you have to be honest with yourself. If that is the situation, I mean, you're both unhealthy. You're both not safe
correct
people.
So you're both abusers.
You're both abusers. It doesn't make it right.
No.
It's still wrong because I had no right to be abusive to him, nor did he have a right to be abusive to me. And so I think that as women, a lot of times, you'll hear about these stories, you stand at the door, he's trying to leave, and you're going to stand at the door, no, don't leave. If he's trying to leave because he's angry, let him leave.
Please.
Let him get his space.
Let him
get himself together. Don't, because that provokes him. It's basically you got a caged animal that's trying to get out, and you're standing at the gate and you won't let him out. They're going to fight to get out because they're trying to get out. And so you have to get out of the way and allow them to have that space so that they can calm down. Also, you can't, ladies, we have the tendency, our mouths, we can, yeah, to the point that it backs a person up in a corner. When you see you're backing a person up in the corner, you need to back up and leave them alone.
100%.
In that case, and like I said, you're not responsible for how they respond. If they come out swinging, they've chosen to do that.
I've chosen to do that.
But you can't provoke them to that point. Just like the scripture talks about,
don't provoke
your children to wrath. Don't provoke your spouse to wrath either.
100%.
Because you share a responsibility in provoking them, but you don't share a responsibility in their response. Now, if they're physically abusive to you as a response to that, that's on them, and they were responsible for that. They made a choice to respond that way because they could have responded in another way. But also, you have to be honest that I did provoke that. So I did push them in a corner. I did.
Yep. And you have to own that part.
And you have to own that part.
So I want. Excuse me. Excuse me, guys. So I want to kind of bottom line this, guys, because we've gone way over time and we got to get out of here. But here's what I want to do. When it comes to abuse, and this is the 10 reason for the 10 most common reasons of divorce. When it comes to abuse, here's just what I want y'all to hear. How do you guard against that? You own your responsibility.
Right.
Own your part. That's all we're asking. Do not own their part.
Right.
Own your part, own your responsibility, and work at getting to a place where you can put up healthy boundaries. We will coach couples in a New York Minute to say, listen, a boundary for abuse could be separation, right. Physical separation. Well, I don't think we should be separated. I mean, we married. Let me tell y'all something right now. You putting your hands on somebody until you get yourself together. There's a boundary going on over here. Right, you cussing me out, telling me what you going to do to me and how you going to serve me up and this, that, and that. I'm not doing that. No, here's what. Until you can speak like I'm a human being and like you should care about me, I'll be at my mother's house, right. Or I will be at my girlfriend's house. You over here and you're committing adultery and you're going through all these different things. Now you got to get out of this room. I'm not sleeping with someone who's having an affair, and I know it. I'm not sleeping with you. We ain't exchanging no fluids around here.
I'm not sleeping with her.
For what?
Look, I'm
what?
Doing all that.
A condom ain't that good. You understand what I'm saying? So, and I'm being dead real, guys, right. Because unfortunately, you got people who are contracting diseases that they cannot get rid of because they can't put up a boundary. Are you out of your mind?
Right.
Listen to me carefully, guys.
That's another form of abuse. Also, if your spouse is committing adultery, and you know they're committing adultery, physical adultery, with another person and they want to still sleep with you, that is a form of abuse. Because they are physically abusing you, and the fact that
they're abnormally using you.
Right, because they are engaging in sexual activity with another person, and then they want to have sexual activity. That is not. They have defiled the marriage bed at that point.
100%.
My spiritual people.
Yeah,
they have defiled the marriage
all
bed
my
at
saved
that point,
folks.
and I'm not. Until you stop doing what you're doing and you get yourself together, we ain't doing that. We're not coming together as one.
Consummating nothing.
Because now it's not us coming together as one. It's three people involved.
I'm not interested in sleeping with him, fellas.
Right.
I'm not interested. I'm a heterosexual man. I'm not interested in sleeping with another man.
Right.
Let me just say it that way.
Right.
If my wife is committing adultery and I know it, I'm not interested. I would not go out the house and go sleep with the dude she's sleeping with. But if I sleep with her, that's what I'm doing. Why would I do that? Y'all, I'm being dead real and dead honest and right up front and in your face about that, because this has got to stop. Right. There is a reason why 50% of first marriages end in divorce. There's a reason why 60+% of second marriages end in divorce. There's a reason why 70+% of third marriages end in divorce. And there's a reason why we are still here.
Right.
At the end of the day, guys, I promise you, there is a work that we're putting in that we want to teach and train you guys how to do. If there's anything that we've said that's resonated with you, go to the link, www.thecrcoach.com. Sign up for a personal coaching session. It's called a discovery session. It's free. Don't cost you nothing. Take about 15 minutes for us to. There's a questionnaire that you fill out. Then it schedules an appointment with us. We will be more than happy and we'll tell you right off the break if we're a fit for you. If we're not, we'll tell you where you should go get help or how you should be connected. Because at the end of the day, guys, here's what I'm gonna tell you. And I appreciate the comments. Y'all are going in. We're gonna have to answer these offline or engage you guys, but I want to tell y'all, listen to me carefully. At the end of the day, guys, I promise you, we all need some help. Y'all be good. We've gone long. I hope this helped you. Next week, join us. We'll be live from the DMV talking to Keith Battle, and I'm super excited about that opportunity, talking about side chickology. Why do men and women cheat? It's going to be pretty vicious, y'all. Y'all don't want to miss it. We'll talk to you soon. Tell your friends. At the end of the day, again, we all need some help. Y'all be good.